And now also this year, we're finally seeing the PlayStation exclusivity, or at least the vast majority of it, start to go by the wayside. It's still more or less there with, Sony and Activision having that partnership, but we got a big announcement today that shows that a large part of this exclusivity is going by the wayside. It means no platform is getting the shaft this year as far as this content goes. One last thing I should mention is that also in this post, they said that PlayStation was going to be getting some sort of awesome day one exclusive content. Who knows? It could be something as simple as a calling card. Maybe it's some PlayStation themed camo to put on weapons. It just seems like we're going to full on bringing the community together this year, which is so dope.
It means no platform is getting the shaft this year as far as this content goes.
Well, that aged well, didn't it? So, I'm sure you guys have all heard by now that the exclusivity that I talked about a few videos back that was going to be heavily reduced this year is actually still in a decent part there. And in that video, I wasn't totally wrong because I said the majority of it was gone and there was still some kind of exclusive day one content coming. But, like I said, I thought it might be like a calling card or some cool custom camo. Not in entire game mode. So, for those of you that haven't heard, we're getting survival this year with Spec Ops, which is really great news. We're bringing Spec Ops back for the first time since Modern Warfare 3, and a lot of people wanted to see survival mode, which was a part of Modern Warfare 3. It's basically a dumbed down zombies, I guess, in a way, because it's just kind of going against increasingly difficult soldiers. You rack up money by getting kills and such, which you can use to put toward new guns, or call in like a Predator missile, or call in some sort of support, get new perks, all this kind of stuff, and you just kind of play and kill to see how high you can go in each round. It's a pretty fun mode, and a lot of people are hoping this would return from Modern Warfare 3 this year with the new Modern Warfare and Spec Ops coming back. Well, good news, it is. However, as with usual with an Activision published game, there is a catch. So this mode is going to be available day one come launch, if you're on PlayStation 4. Now, I know, with exclusivity that we've had the past number of years, this isn't a surprise, and some of you sitting back are probably just going, okay, cool, what do we get it? A week after launch, a couple weeks, a month after launch? How does next year sound? That's right, if you're not on PlayStation 4, you won't be seeing it launch week, launch month, all of 2019, the early winter of 2020, spring of 2020, or even summer of 2020, you'll get it by the time the next Call of Duty comes out in October of 2020. That's genius. Holy shit. Ah! Like, this is beyond ridiculous, okay? I've seen things delayed for a long time as far as the exclusivity goes. For the longest time, it was a month with maps. And it was a month with, the campaign of Modern Warfare Remastered. We've had betas early. We've had all this content for the whole cycle of Black Ops 4 be a week early. And that means, like, everything. Anything pretty much that comes to PlayStation 4 on the first week, you're going to have to wait a week to get on Xbox and PC. We've had that. But this time, we have an entire game mode, Survival, which is part of Spec Ops, that is not going to be available to play on any other console besides the PlayStation 4 for an entire year. Activision, what the f***? This might be one of the most beyond ridiculous things I've ever seen, and, as a COD player, it doesn't make me very happy. However, some of my exaggerated rage and, all joking aside, I do want to talk about this realistically. Because as much of an absolute joke as it is for an entire game mode to be locked to one console for an entire year before it gets released to the other ones, especially in Call of Duty, where a new game gets released every year, so basically by the time the survival mode comes out in other games, this game is going to be essentially like an afterthought. I mean, the new COD's going to be coming. And in terms of the Call of Duty cycle goes, we don't really care what's coming to the old Call of Duty when the new one's coming. That has nothing to do with whether you like Modern Warfare or not. That's just how the COD cycle goes. I think we all know that. But as absolutely ridiculous as it is, to be honest with you, I can't say I'm entirely upset. At least as far as calling it exactly what it is. Now, I want to clear up the principle and the thought of this is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that it was an actual meeting to sit down and say, hey guys, we're going to take the survival mode that you brought back for all your fans and wanted to put in as an additional game mode, we're going to only give it out to one platform for this entire year. I mean, to have that thought, to have it probably voted on in the office or whatever in the meeting, and to have this done, I don't know how that goes through anybody's head. However, trying to be optimistic with it, looking at the bright side, and looking at things a little bit more realistically, I can't say I'm beyond pissed at what is actually happening with this and how it's going to affect me. Now, I do want to clear up, I'm speaking of this from my point of view. For those of you that were planning on playing something like Survival for the entire year, which I personally don't see how you can do that. Or for those of you that like survival is going to be a massive part of what you play in Modern Warfare, you're probably going to have an entirely different side. But I'm speaking from my point of view right here. To look at this as a trade-off and to look at it and go, well, for the first time in forever that it seems like, we're going to be getting all maps, new game modes, hopefully like when weapons come in, you know, all this new microtransaction stuff when it comes to the game, it's all going to be coming to all the platforms at the same time. And as a trade-off, we're taking a relatively speaking small game mode and putting it on one platform exclusively, and one for me that I'm not going to put a lot of time into. I can honestly say I would make the trade. Now, again, I don't think the trade should have to be made, or that us as players and gamers should ever have to give up something to another console just because people play on a different console. Again, I want to clarify, the principle of this is retarded. However, diving like realistically into it and looking at exactly what is going to be happening, I can't say truthfully that I'm that upset. Because what I'm going to spend a large amount of time in this year is the normal multiplayer. Playing, you know, one of the standard modes, playing some ground war, playing some gunfight, things like that. Am I going to delve into Spec Ops? Absolutely. But probably more so some of the mission type things. Those are just personally more fun to me. Survival, I of course played in Modern Warfare 3 and it was a lot of fun, but after playing it a couple times, I was like, well, I basically covered everything that this game mode is about. There's not really much more to do except just continue and try to go to higher rounds. So to tell you that I'm mad that I'm not going to be able to play a game mode that I probably wouldn't play much more than 3 times, and I'm not going to be able to play that this year, I can't tell you I'm truthfully upset. Especially as a main Xbox player, somebody that's going to be playing the multiplayer almost mainly, and then I'm going to be getting new maps, new modes, weapons, all the new stuff, essentially, the vast majority of it anyway, that comes to platforms in future content as we get throughout the game, to get that at the same time as everybody else for the first time in 5 years or whatever it's been now. I personally would rather take that than a game mode that I'm going to play a few times. Again, that's me personally. And I honestly think for the majority of people, they feel the same way. Now with this whole thing, Infinity Ward has of course responded. One of my favorite responses came from Taylor Kurosaki, who was one of the narrative directors of Modern Warfare. He put out in a now deleted tweet for whatever reason that, you know, it's nice to have what's going to probably be 99% of the game come to all platforms at the same time, rather than just a smaller 1%, even though it's a little bit bigger than that, but a relatively speaking 1% of the game go to a different platform. That's how I look at it, personally. As much as I think this is absolutely ridiculous, this shouldn't be happening, and especially 1 year is just baffles my mind. Personally, for me, looking at it as a trade-off, trying to look at it the most optimistic way possible, I'm not that upset about not being able to play survival mode. Especially seeing as it was a mode that was never really even confirmed to be coming to the game. We of course had a leak that it was being worked on, but it was kind of a last-minute thing just based on fan feedback. So it was never something that was from the beginning thought of to be put in the game. So thinking of it as an additional mode, it really is an additional mode because it was never thought of to be in there from the beginning. To put that on one platform in exchange for a lot of other great things that we're getting this year, it's hard for me to totally complain, especially like I said, knowing that I'm probably wouldn't play survival mode more than a few times. Now, I do find it kind of ironic that with all this bringing the community together, doing the cross-platform, cross-progression, making the majority of the exclusivity like maps, modes, and all the stuff that normally goes to one platform exclusively, and now that's all going to be coming out at the same time, I do find it ironic that we have probably one of the worst examples of exclusivity that we've seen happen in that same time frame. But I feel like I would be lying if I was to sit here and complain about it like it's the biggest deal in the world to me, when I know damn well that I'm not gonna play it that much, and I would rather have those other things rather than this one mode to be able to play. And honestly, for the first time in a while, we always know it's not a developer thing when these kind of things happen. We always kind of point it to Activision. But this time, I don't even know if it's Activision that we have to blame for this. Personally, I'm kind of looking more so at Sony for this. And this isn't me as an Xbox player saying, oh, F Sony, this has to be their fault. But, I mean, looking at it realistically, when have they ever been all about bringing communities together and trying to get people to play on all platforms together? I mean, these are the same guys that held off full crossplay on Fortnite for months because they were too egotistical to let people play on whatever platform they wanted to. And I feel like the large reason that this came about is because Sony and Activision still have this partnership together, and because of this Call of Duty being moved way more away from the exclusivity, bringing the community overall way more together than we've ever seen before. Sony, I felt like, was just kind of like, hey, we still have that partnership. You kind of have to give us something or you're kind of breaking our agreement here in our contract. And then Activision was like, shit, they're right. Like, we have to give them something. Otherwise, like, we're kind of breaking our exclusive agreement here. Like, if we're not giving them really anything exclusive besides, like, when they had the beta the first weekend, like, what are we really giving them as our exclusive agreement? And I felt like overall, they tried to take the smallest thing that they could and give it to Sony as an exclusive just to keep the other things that they had already promised. I don't know how this went down. Obviously, I'm not with Activision or Sony or Infinity War. Obviously, I have no ties with any of that. I have no clue what went down with this entire thing. It makes absolutely no sense. But if I'm trying to piece it together, I kind of feel like that's what happened, is Activision finally agreed that, like, yeah, we have to move more toward community friendly and bringing this community together and kind of eliminating as much of this exclusivity as possible and, you know, bringing all these parts of the community together that have been so separate for so long. And then Sony was kind of like, hey, well, we still kind of have an agreement here. You know, you gotta give us something. And then Activision was like, shit, what's like the smallest thing we can give them that wouldn't piss off the entire community? And I feel like they went with survival, which I think truthfully, at least compared to the other things, is a small part. But the part that baffles me the most is 1 year. That's the part I can't wrap my head around. I don't understand the 1 year part at all. If you want to do a week, a month, a couple months even, okay. But to delay it for an entire Call of Duty cycle? Like, this isn't Battlefield. This isn't Halo. This isn't some game that comes out every 2, 3, 4 years. Like, it's not a GTA or something. Like this is Call of Duty. We have another release lined up for sometime in October, maybe early November next year already. And seeing as the way as betas work, if you're on Xbox or PC, you're going to have already been able to play Black Ops 5's multiplayer beta, most likely, before you even get to play survival mode on your own platform for a game that would almost be a year old at that point. That's the part that cracks me up and I think is so ridiculous. I think that's the worst part of the whole thing, is it's 1 year. Not that, you know, it's exclusive or that it's survival mode of all things that's locked behind, because I do feel like it's relatively small. And if they want to give them something exclusive in exchange for all the good things we're getting this year, okay. But why 1 year? That's the part I can't get over. And that's the part I can't make sense of whatsoever. But anyway, down below in the comments, let me know your guys' thoughts. I know it's relatively negative as far as this thing goes, and rightfully so. Although I do feel like, to a little bit of an extent, it's getting blown out of proportion just slightly, and I feel like a lot of the people complaining about it wouldn't play survival anyway. But, you know, I'm in no position to tell people what they can and can't get mad about. You know, it's all up to them. It's whatever. And like I said, this isn't something to just, you know, scoot by and laugh at and not even pay attention to. It's pretty ridiculous. But just in my personal view, I would take what we're getting and give away what we're not getting rather than take the old system. That's personally just me. We shouldn't have to trade off, but if we have to, I guess I'll take what we got right now. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video, guys. So if you enjoyed, make sure to smack the Schmidt out of that like button down below. And if you guys are new and looking forward to more video game content, you guys are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button down below as well. Turn those notifications on so you guys know when those videos go live. Hopefully you guys all have a good one. I will see you guys on another video. So long, everybody.